Picture raking in $23 million annually by age 22, yet barely clearing $100,000 from the very sport you dominate. This remarkable woman stands as the wealthiest snow sport titan on the globe today. Brought into this world on United States soil, she violently shook the athletic landscape by donning the colors of the Far East. Her name is Eileen, the young visionary who straddled two massive empires, amassing a fortune that leaves those tied to a single flag completely in the dust. Rewind to June 6, 2019. A seemingly ordinary 15-year-old teenager living in the Bay Area logs onto social media and drops a bombshell announcement destined to rewrite her entire destiny. The carefully crafted words declare, "I hold deep reverence for my ancestral roots, just as I fiercely value the way I was raised in the States. The chance to spark a fire in the hearts of millions of kids within my mother's homeland is a magical opening I simply cannot let pass by." Let us decode that message. The American-made trick skiing sensation was jumping ship. From that moment onward, she refused to wear the stars and stripes on the slopes. Effective right then, her allegiance shifted to the mighty dragon, embracing her maternal heritage, the exact spot she explored during childhood vacations, and notably, a nation aggressively gearing up for the 2022 Global Winter Games while desperately hunting for a legendary savior. Few realized it at the time, but stepping across that invisible border would transform her into the most financially successful cold-weather competitor to ever live. Entering the world on September 3, 2003, in the heart of Northern California, she was raised without siblings. Her dad hailed from the States, while her mom brought a fierce hustle, an Eastern immigrant turned powerhouse investor and a veteran on the snowy peaks. Raised to speak flawlessly in two demanding tongues, she navigated her academic months out west, then vanished eastward during the blazing months to bond with her elders. She was a master of dual realities, grasping two distinct worlds and heavens. The kid was a prodigy on the powder. She did not merely glide, she soared. At the tender age of 13, she was already hoarding domestic gold medals. Fast forward 12 months, she conquered the national squad. Hitting 15, critics were already basis, crowning her the absolute destiny of the extreme ski movement. The whole country blindly trusted she would emerge as the undisputed poster child for the 2022 showdown. She was practically wrapped in the flag, a living testament to Western athletic supremacy. Yet, a massive hurdle loomed in the shadows. This teenager was far more than a mere jumper. She conquered academia with flawless marks at an intensely competitive prep academy. Standing at an elegant 5'7", blessed with striking features and bridging the East-West divide verbally, she was a corporate marketer's ultimate fantasy. However, hitting the slopes on halfpipes remains an obscure sideshow back home. Unless the rings are blazing on television, ice and snow events are mostly ignored. That meant zero massive payouts, zero household recognition, and absolutely no high-fashion magazine deals. But flip the map. The East was throwing the 2022 spectacular. With 3 rapid years left on the clock, the host nation was panicking. Their frosty sports division was remarkably weak. They craved champions. They hungered for icons. They required a dazzling force capable of snatching first place while serving absolute glamour. Enter our protagonist, carrying Eastern bloodlines, armed with native dialect skills, and intimately familiar with the streets of the capital. She was the missing puzzle piece. Consequently, her inner circle crunched the brutal numbers. Ride under the eagle, perhaps snatch some hardware if lucky, secure a few modest brand checks, and inevitably blend into the endless sea of forgettable competitors. Alternatively, ski for the rising dragon. The reward? Instant god-tier celebrity, corporate alliances, bursting with 7-figure payouts, infinite glossy editorials, A-list pampering, and morphing into the undeniable emblem of the entire global event. Barely 15 years into her life, she pulls the trigger. She aligns with her mother's homeland, and the fury unleashed upon her is instantaneous and vicious. Critics instantly labeled her a defector. Pundits screamed that, if you want to witness true cinematic betrayal, look no further than this girl. Prominent conservative talking heads painted her as a wildly unappreciative turncoat, viciously slamming the door on the very soil that nurtured her talents, aggressively branding her grand pivot as an absolute disgrace. On the flip side, supporters highlighted the incredibly bigoted venom spewed at her from every corner of the modern, Western-driven political smear campaign. The domestic retaliation was nothing short of savage. timelines ignited with pure rage, throwing around heavy insults like Judas, mercenary, and a total disgrace to the Republic. While a handful saw brilliant business strategy, the masses screamed treason. Hardline lawmakers joined the digital mob. A past diplomatic envoy publicly shamed her actions as revolting. Pundits ripped into her deeply, interrogating her allegiances, her devotion to the flag, and the very core of who she was. Yet, society conveniently ignored a massive reality check. This young woman was absolutely zero in debt to the West or a single living soul. There is no contractual loyalty in sports. Switching allegiances is incredibly common. Native-born talents carry the banners of foreign territories at every single global gathering. The public stays dead silent when a hooper suits up for Madrid or a sprinter hits the track for the Caribbean. However, the rulebook vanished here. The destination was the absolute focal point of modern tension, the Red Dragon, the ultimate rival. By 2019, the diplomatic ice between the two superpowers was cracking violently. Economic clashes, territorial disputes, and an endless drumbeat of hostility dominated the news. She morphed into a weaponized political pawn before cutting her 16th birthday cake. All this drama, and she had not even secured a banchin, solitary piece of hardware. Across the Pacific, however, she had already ascended to untouchable royalty without making a single official jump. Her signature hit the ink on a tidal wave of luxury contracts. Mega brands like Louis Vuitton, Tiffany & Company, IWC watches, Estee Lauder, Porsche, and Red Bull threw bags of cash, alongside massive Eastern giants like Bank of China, China Mobile, Luckin Coffee, Mengniu Dairy, and Anta Sports, totaling well over 20 massive partnerships. Absolutely staggering. Her financial empire is mind-boggling, with whispers claiming she raked in $31.4 million from sponsorships just during 2021. At merely 17 years of age, she completely dominates the visual landscape of Beijing. Transit stations, underground tunnels, and digital pop-ups across Weibo flash her image constantly. Escaping her presence is impossible. Gu Eiling, her culturally adopted identity, rapidly transforms into the absolute most universally recognized superstar throughout the nation. You will find her gracing the glossy fronts of Elle China, Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, and Marie Claire. Labeling her merely a sports competitor completely misses the mark. She morphs into a bona fide style deity. Elite modeling titan IMG sweeps her up into their ranks, placing her alongside industry royalty like Gigi Hadid. The Eastern superpower dubs her their beloved pathless winter royalty, an ultimate cultural connector, and living evidence that their native competitors can rule the international stage. Yet, miraculously, this is all before she even sets foot in an Olympic arena. Fast forward to the bitter cold of February 2022. The Chinese capital sets the ultimate stage for the spectacular climax everyone had been anticipating for years. The 2022 Winter Games have finally arrived, drawing the gaze of billions. However, the suffocating weight bearing down on the shoulders of this young prodigy is entirely unfathomable. Barely 18 trips around the sun, yet she commits to a grueling triad of extreme disciplines, navigating the colossal jumps, mastering the massive U-shaped ramp, and conquering the obstacle-heavy downhill course. Her host nation demands nothing short of absolute victory, while her birth country watches with a critical, almost vindictive eye. Each jump becomes a political weapon, and every single word she utters is placed under a brutal microscope. Then looms the massive elephant in the room, her legal nationality. Since the Eastern nation strictly forbids holding two passports, the rulebook dictates that representing them on the slopes requires the total surrender of her American documents. Yet, the superstar remains notoriously and utterly silent on the matter. The exact nature of her legal status is a closely guarded secret, completely sidestepping every probing journalist. She famously declared that when she stands on Western soil, she belongs to the States, but crossing Eastern borders makes her fully local. While the press collectively erupts into absolute chaos over this statement, our protagonist maintains a lethal, unbreakable focus. The 8th of February, 2022, brings the ultimate aerial showdown. During her inaugural debut, she finds herself trailing the leader. With just a single, desperate attempt remaining between her and eternal glory, the situation demands an absolute miracle. She audaciously chooses to execute an impossibly complex maneuver that absolutely zero female competitors have ever successfully stuck in a live contest. A colossal double cork maneuver, a 1620 4 complete revolutions plus an extra half twist, touching down completely without seeing the ground. Upon impact, the danger level is absolutely astronomical. Yet, flawless execution guarantees immortality. Plunging down the colossal ramp, she launches into the stratosphere, twisting, hurtling through the air. The massive audience falls dead silent before she touches down with terrifying perfection. Not a single wobble. Absolute triumph. Victory is seized. The host nation secures their third ultimate prize, the local equivalent of major Western social networks, completely obliterates its own servers under the sheer weight of millions, simultaneously hunting for her profile. The hashtag bearing her name dominates global algorithms, while simultaneously, a venomous counter-movement branding her a traitor skyrockets across Western platforms. However, the prodigy is far from finished. She brutally annihilates the competition in the U-shaped ramp, snatching another ultimate victory with effortless grace, followed swiftly by a stunning second-place finish in the downhill obstacle course. Perfection might have eluded her in one category, but securing hardware across the entire board is undeniably legendary. At barely 18 years of age, this phenom cements her legacy as the inaugural aerial snow athlete to ever sweep a trio of podium finishes in a solitary winter tournament. She simultaneously shatters records as the most youthful ultimate victor the extreme skiing world has ever witnessed. It is a completely paradigm-shifting spectacle. The Eastern Hemisphere hoists her upon a patriotic pedestal, while Western audiences seethe with bitter resentment. In the wake of those Winter Games, she instantly transforms into the most fiercely lucrative sports figure walking the globe. The minimum asking price for a simple brand partnership skyrockets from a staggering $1 million, all the way up to $2.5 million. A solitary social media upload lines her pockets with more wealth than the vast majority of legendary competitors see in a lifetime. She confidently struts down the infamous angel-winged runway, commands the absolute best viewing spots alongside high-fashion elites in the French capital, becomes the radiant face for legendary luxury French design houses, and stares back from the absolute most prestigious fashion magazines across both Eastern and Western publishing worlds. To call her simply an athlete is an insult. She has mutated into a sprawling corporate empire, a coveted way of life, and a towering cultural mood board. Fast forward to 2025, and the situation gets crazier. The most prestigious financial magazine declares her a reigning queen among the globe's wealthiest women in sports. An astronomical $23 million flowed into her accounts during those 12 months, securing the number 4 slot, trailing only a trio of racket-swinging titans. Yet, the jaw-dropping reality is this. A mere $100,000 of that fortune originated from actual snow competitions. Every single other penny was purely corporate sponsorships. She literally generates 230 times more wealth navigating boardrooms than shredding powder. Meanwhile, she casually tackles an elite Ivy-level university curriculum, diving deep into global diplomacy while casually unraveling the mysteries of subatomic particles strictly for entertainment. Remarkably, her competitive fire still burns brightly. She has conquered a staggering 20 international championship tour stops, securing the absolute most victories ever recorded in her discipline's history, all by age 22. Financial whispers place her total empire's value somewhere in the neighborhood of $80 million to $100 million. Yet, the fierce, burning backlash absolutely refuses to die down. The narrative twists violently in 2025, when she enthusiastically steps up as the official face for the Western Mountain City's aggressive campaign to secure either the 2030 or 2034 Global Winter Games. Suddenly, she is heavily championing the very nation she allegedly turned her back on. Eastern digital platforms instantly ignite into an absolute inferno of outrage. Users scream about her abandoned loyalty, mocking her so-called convenient patriotism, and accusing her of worshipping nothing but cold, hard cash. Meanwhile, Western pundits are left scratching their heads in sheer bewilderment, wondering if the prodigal daughter has finally returned to the fold. Through the deafening noise, our protagonist simply continues executing her masterclass, shredding mountains, dominating runways, acing exams, and relentlessly stacking incomprehensible wealth. Because the critical detail that the furious masses completely fail to grasp is that this phenomenon was absolutely never interested in playing tribal politics. She operates on an entirely different, infinitely more advanced chessboard, a borderless battlefield where personal allegiance is constantly shifting, Corporate empires know no boundaries, and swearing fealty to a single flag is completely unnecessary. She stands alone as the absolute ultimate pioneer of her era to weaponize modern global interconnectedness perfectly. Breathing her first breath in the West, fighting for glory under an Eastern banner, and draining the financial reserves of both simultaneously. Speaking both native tongues flawlessly, she finds ultimate comfort in two completely opposing worlds. Haters label her a ruthless mercenary. Loyalists crown her an absolute mastermind. Yet, undeniably, the entire planet must concede that her strategy is flawlessly devastating. Her bank accounts eclipse virtually every single snowbound competitor to ever live. She holds terrifying cultural power across the globe's absolute most dominant financial powerhouses on the planet. Countless little girls across the mainland look up to her as an absolute hero. And frankly, regardless of how America feels about it, this prodigy remains a monumental icon. 2 glorious golds, a single silver, 3 glossy magazine covers, 20 massive corporate deals, a net worth sitting at $100 million, and she is barely 22 years old. Eileen refused to simply collect hardware. She completely shattered the playbook. She proved that modern competitors are never forced to pick a side between rival nations, tear themselves between extreme athletics and high couture, or decide if they want to be a fierce champion versus a glamorous runway star. She demanded it all, and that fierce audacity crowned her the single highest-earning cold-weather competitor we have ever witnessed. You can absolutely adore her magic or deeply resent her choices, but you cannot look away. Because Eileen is far more than a girl on skis. She is the living, breathing blueprint of what tomorrow's superstar is destined to become. I deeply appreciate you tuning into this journey. Smash that thumbs up if this tale captivated you. Hit that subscribe button if it left you wanting more. Spread the word to your entire circle. Stay with us to uncover even more hidden legends inside Beyond the Rings.